You think power comes from money, from armies, or political titles. You're wrong. True power comes from access. If you can control the person who controls the army, you own the army. No. And the easiest way to control a powerful person isn't to fight them, it's to heal them. History is filled with kings and emperors who were untouchable on the battlefield but were completely enslaved by a whisperer in their bedroom, a mystic, a healer, a lover, a person who understood that the strongest armor has a gap, and that gap is almost always trauma. If you find a person in pain and offer them the one thing their money can't buy, you become their god. You don't need to be handsome or noble. You can be a peasant with dirt under your fingernails. If you hold the cure to their suffering, you own their soul. Welcome to the anatomy of psychological seduction. To understand how a peasant destroyed a 300-year-old dynasty, you have to understand the biology of emotional dependency. The human brain has a flaw. When we're in a crisis, when we're terrified for someone we love, our logic center shuts down. The amygdala, the fear center, takes over. It screams for a solution. It doesn't care if the solution is rational or scientific. It only cares about relief. This is where the predator enters. In dark psychology, we call this the savior trap. The predator identifies a target in a state of high anxiety or grief. They don't offer a logical fix. They offer an emotional release. They become a container for the target's anxiety. When the target is with the predator, they feel calm. When the predator leaves, the panic returns. This creates a chemical addiction in the brain. The target becomes physically dependent on the predator for dopamine and oxytocin regulation. It's not love. It's parasitic symbiosis. The predator feeds on power. The target feeds on relief. There is no darker or more terrifying example of this than the Mad Monk of Russia, Grigori Rasputin. The year is 1905. The Russian Empire is the largest nation on earth. Tsar Nicholas II rules over 170 million people. He's the wealthiest man alive. He has everything. But he has a secret that is slowly destroying his family from the inside. His only son, the heir to the throne Alexei, the boy has hemophilia. His blood doesn't clot. Simple bruise could kill him. The best doctors in Europe are helpless. They give him aspirin, which actually thins the blood and makes the bleeding worse. The mother, Empress Alexandra, is living in a state of perpetual terror. She barely sleeps. She prays constantly. She's drowning in guilt because she knows she passed the genetic defect to her son. She is the most powerful woman in Russia, but she's powerless to save her child. She is prime real estate for a spiritual predator. Enter Rasputin. He wasn't a priest. He was a wandering peasant from Siberia. He was filthy. He smelled of goat and sweat. He had food stuck in his beard. He was known for drinking and sleeping with prostitutes. By all logic, he should never have been allowed near the palace gates. But he had two things. He had piercing, hypnotic eyes that made people feel like he could see their sins. And he had a reputation as a starutz, a holy man who could heal the sick. When the doctors failed, the empress called for the holy man. This is the moment the trap snapped shut. Alexei was bleeding internally. He was screaming in pain. The doctors said he would die. Rasputin walked into the room. He didn't panic. He didn't use medicine. He sat by the bed, held the boy's hand, and told the frantic mother to stop crying. He lowered the temperature of the room with his presence. He told stories. He prayed in a low, vibrating voice. And miraculously, the bleeding stopped. Historians and scientists have debated for a century how he did it. Some say he used hypnosis to lower the boy's blood pressure. Some say he simply stopped the doctors from giving the boy aspirin. It doesn't matter how he did it. It only matters that the empress believed he did it. In that moment, Alexandra didn't see a dirty peasant. She saw a messenger from God. She looked at Rasputin and saw the only thing standing between her son and death. Rasputin understood the leverage he held. He didn't ask for money. He asked for influence. He became the gatekeeper. He isolated the empress, telling her the doctors were trying to kill the boy and the ministers were enemies of God. He convinced her that only he could protect the family. This is a classic cult tactic. Isolation. If you cut the target off from their support system, they become entirely dependent on you. Soon, Rasputin was dictating military strategy during World War I. He was appointing bishops, firing ministers. If a politician wanted to see the Tsar, they had to go through the peasant. The aristocracy was horrified. They saw a drunkard taking bribes. But when they complained to the Empress, she wouldn't listen. She said, "They are jealous of him because he is a man of God." This is confirmation bias, weaponized by trauma. To admit Rasputin was a fraud would mean admitting her son was going to die. Her brain literally couldn't accept the truth. Rasputin used another tool called the holy fool archetype. He told the Empress that to be truly saved, one must first sin. Therefore, his drinking and debauchery were actually a path to holiness. He spun a narrative where his worst behavior was proof of his divinity. This is reframing. He took the evidence against him and turned it into evidence for him. The power dynamic shifted completely. The Tsar of Russia was afraid to fire a peasant because he feared his wife, and his wife feared the death of her son. Rasputin held the entire Russian Empire hostage by holding the hand of a sick little boy. It ended the only way it could: violence. The nobles realized the only way to break the spell was to kill the wizard. Prince Yusupov invited Rasputin to a cellar. They gave him cakes laced with cyanide, enough to kill 5 men. Rasputin ate them. He drank poisoned wine. He didn't die. This only added to his myth. Yusupov panicked and shot him in the chest. Rasputin fell. But when Yusupov checked the body, Rasputin opened his eyes and lunged at him, screaming. They shot him again. They beat him. They threw him into the frozen river. When they found his body, his hands were frozen, as if he'd tried to claw his way out from under the ice. But the damage was done. Rasputin had destroyed the monarchy's reputation. The Russian people saw corruption and madness. Less than 3 months after Rasputin died, the Russian Revolution began. The Tsar was forced to abdicate. A year later, the entire Romanov family, including little Alexei, was executed in a basement. Rasputin's prophecy came true. He wrote a letter to the Tsar before he died, saying, "If I am killed by common men, you and your children will rule for centuries. But if I am killed by your relations, then you and your family will be killed by the Russian people." Even from the grave, he planted one last psychological virus. So how do you protect yourself from a psychological seducer? How do you spot a Rasputin before they enter your house? You must adopt the anti-dependency protocol. Rule number 1, beware the crisis savior. It's the most dangerous rule. When you're in your darkest moment, grieving, sick, bankrupt, be hypervigilant of new people entering your life. Like predators, look for blood in the water. If someone appears out of nowhere with the perfect solution to your deepest pain, pause. Ask yourself, what do they want in return? Rule number 2, the gatekeeper test. Does this person try to isolate you? Do they tell you your friends don't understand you or that your family is toxic? A true healer connects you to the world. A predator cuts the connection so they can feed on you alone. If anyone tries to build a wall around you, tear it down. Rule number 3, judge results, not relief. This is hard. Relief feels good. Rasputin made the Empress feel good, but he didn't cure the boy. You must separate your emotional state from objective reality. Does this person actually solve the problem, or do they just make you feel better about having it? If you're addicted to their presence but your life is getting worse, you're being eaten alive. Power is not taken, it is given. Tsar gave his power to the Empress. The Empress gave her power to the peasant. The peasant destroyed the empire. Do one give the keys to your kingdom to someone just because they make the pain stop for a moment? Endure the pain, keep the keys. But sometimes the manipulation doesn't come from a stranger. Sometimes it comes from the group. What happens when an entire society goes mad at the same time? When logical people start dancing until they die, or burning witches, because they re-terrified of an invisible threat. This is called mass hysteria. If you want to understand how fear can infect a population like a virus, click the video on the screen. The madness is catching.